I think we've still got a couple of guests that should be joining us shortly, but I'll add them in as and when.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've just heard that we are live.
Okay, we are live now. Welcome to tonight's internal panel. All right, let's. I'll have to go through the announcements, I'm afraid. Due to the government's guidance on social distancing and the COVID-19 virus, the meeting will be live streamed and recorded for later publication on the council's website. Item number 2, apologies to receive of absence from the meeting. I have only received one. Councillor Andy Sargent will be replaced by. Is that right? By Jane.
Yeah, yes, Chair. I'm replacing Andy Sargent.
Okay, I just thought I would get that right.
Chair, Councillor Doughty is it's going to be slightly delayed for the start of the meeting. She's stuck in a traffic jam somewhere on a motorway, but she'll join us as soon as she can. Okay.
Everybody accept those apologies, and hope Councillor Doughty gets to us sooner than later. Right, item number 3, to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of September. Page number 5. Any comments on
Chair?
the meeting? Councillor Condicor, I believe you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. The minutes can't possibly be right because Councillor Doughty is down as being present and Councillor Hancock substituting for her. So I can't remember Councillor Hancock's being there, so I think the attendance list may be incorrect.
I'm just trying to think whether Councillor Hancock's was. Could anybody else pick that up? I thought Councillor Hancock's was there in replacement. Can anybody else say?
Chair, Councillor Evans.
Yeah, I've just seen your hand go up, Councillor. Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Kandaka must be right because further on in the minutes under the recorded votes, Councillor Doughty is listed as voting.
Chair, I thought Councillor Doughty was at that meeting.
Yes, so did I. That was my concern. Yeah.
Chair, the point was it can't be Councillor Doughty and Councillor Hancock, so it may have been Councillor Hancock that wasn't there.
Chair, it was Councillor Doughty who was present at the meeting.
Okay. Does that, is everybody else all right with that? It hasn't actually got, it's only got the apologies from Councillors Croft, Gran, Pomfret, A. Sargent, absent A.J. Sargent substituting. So I'm assuming that the minutes are correct then. Yep. Item number 3 then. Sorry, item number 4, decorations of interest. Any more decorations of interest that don't that are not already stated?
No. Chair.
Councillor Evans.
I'm sorry. Without an amendment to the minutes, I object to them because they are not a true and accurate record. So I didn't hear an amendment being made to the minutes. So on that basis, they are as printed, and I wish to object to the printed minutes.
Okay, Councillor, I'm sure I'm sure that's been noted. Thanks. Anybody else got a problem with that? Councillor Condicor, I see your hands up again.
Yeah, well, assuming you're approving the minutes that Councillor Hancock's was there, you fielded too many players. So
yeah, so I'm thinking
there's something wrong.
Yeah, something wrong somewhere. Can we have a look at this on the attendees again then? Let's get everything clarified because I'm pretty sure Councillor Doughty was there.
Councillor Glass, I can rewatch the video tonight and just confirm that she was there and change those for you, if you're happy with
Okay.
that.
Yes, thanks, Councillor. I'll look at it myself and see if we can get that right. But apart from that, then, are we more or less all right with the report that's in front of us? We'll have a look at that and correct them accordingly. Yeah. Everybody all right with that? Councillor Evans, I see you got your hand up again. Oh, sorry. Councillor Elliott, you've got your hand up now.
Thanks, Chair. Just wanted to say that Councillor Hancock's wasn't recorded as voting, so while he may have been at the start of the meeting, he must have left and mustn't have been there as a councillor.
Well, let's get clarification on that, because I'm pretty sure that Councillor Doughty was there. So I've misspoke. Yes, so my apologies. Councillor Pomfret.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a reminder that I think the procedure is that members have their videos off unless they're speaking. We've been through this before, Councillor. I did mention it at another place, and I was told that councillors can keep their cameras on. All they had to do was mute themselves. Am I right with that, Philip, or have I got it wrong again? Philip Richardson?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Yes. No, Chair. The position has changed. A revised protocol was issued before last full council, which says that members should now switch their cameras off until such time as they speak. So Councillor Pomfret is quite correct. Okay, then. So in order to do that, could councillors switch off their cameras until they're given permission to speak, then switch your cameras on, speak, and then switch your cameras on afterwards. Is that right? Okay. Right, item number...
Chair, there still seems to be two cameras on.
Councillor Condacor, you've still got your camera on. Could you take it off, please? Thank you. I've only got I've only got 9 people on my screen. That's part of the problem. I can't see everybody.
Apologies, Chair. I thought it wasn't on. I couldn't see it on the screen, so apologies.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wilson. I'm just trying to, yeah, because I've only got 9 people on the screen in front of myself, and of course myself in the bottom right-hand corner. Right, Councillor Condacor again.
Thank you, Chair. I had my hand up to raise a point of order. I'd like to bring item 13 to be before item 8, as we've a legal right to ensure that it's heard under the Localism Act. And I can quote the section of the Localism Act if it's useful. This is a very important item, and I have put it in a long while ago, and I do not want it dropping off the agenda by other discussions.
Right, it's open to the panel then. Any, Councillor Evans, what's your suggestion?
If Councillor Condacor is making a recommendation that item 13 be discussed as the next agenda item, then I will second that proposal.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Guttridge, you're going off now. Any other opinion from the panel? It's been proposed and seconded that this should come up just now on the work programme, item number 13, page 193. Request was from Councillor Condacor that what he suggested should come forward to be added to the work programme for this panel. Anybody objecting to the fact that it should be coming up to the panel?
Chair, just to clarify, it needs, I'd like the item discussed, not just put on the future agenda.
Sorry, Councillor, I wouldn't like to do that, because I don't know what we're discussing, and if we're going to do anything, it should be through informed decisions rather than discussing something we really don't have the facts and figures about. My understanding is, and perhaps it would be helpful, that the cabinet member is with us tonight. Would you like to speak, Chris?
Yes, but Chair, that'd be very kind. Thank you. I will be here throughout the meeting, and I will be able to answer any questions that is put forward on this. I have answered certain councillors more than once on this, and we'll be getting the same answer again tonight. Fire risk assessments have been independent living units. The fire risk assessments are living documents. Fire risk assessments and any risk assessment can change at any time. Everything that was brought up at the risk assessments at the independent living units has been addressed, is being worked on, is being done by contractors from outside, and are being overseen by the professionals, Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service. They sign off everything that we are doing, and they are happy with the work that we are doing within housing and communities. They will not sign off any work that is not satisfactory to them. We have spent a lot of money in doing this work. We noticed some problems after the fire risk assessments. We changed our policy from stay put to get out, stay safe. And a lot of this work was done following the Grenfell Tower disaster. The work will continue until everything is done and we can remove the waiting wall. I don't know what more can be answered on this subject. However, I will stay here throughout the night and answer anything that comes up after this is asked, because it will be asked, because it has been 3 times already before. So I will just stay here, Chair, and answer anything at the end. Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks for that input, Councillor. But my whole intention is to try and get it on the work programme, and hopefully try to get it on the work programme for the next meeting, because we're trying to make decisions or trying to look at things that I have no knowledge of. I know some other people have, but I have no documentation in front of me, and I would prefer the panel to have a look at things in the right manner, rather than trying to discuss something that we can discuss with proper advice and papers in front of us at the next meeting. Councillor Condicor.
Thank you very much, Chair. I asked for papers to be presented to this meeting. We have the update on the status report this evening, which says the
Councillor, I haven't seen those papers.
They're in our paperwork for this evening's meeting.
Okay.
That says the cost of the watching wait was £390,000. At yesterday's cabinet meeting, the cost had gone up to £706,000. So £300,000 has been added to the cost of this watching wait brief in 3 days. We are very keen to know what the end point is. No dispute that we need these wardens in at the moment, but we do need to know what the programme is for the 24 sites that are being treated. Some have already been done, and more will be done, so you can get less and less fire wardens. We also have the issue at Priory Court. The fire alarms went off in the daytime, and people did not know there what to do, because the fire wardens are only there nights and weekends. So there was a fire safety issue because people haven't got used to the new system. We haven't got fire drills, and the whole thing is a bit of a mess. And given the disaster we've had in the past around the country, we should tonight or immediately after this convene a meeting to discuss fire safety. It is so important. All I'm asking for is a schedule of how long roughly each place is going to take, and to ensure that until it goes on, people know what to do if a fire happens in the daytime. I have emailed you, I've emailed Philip, I've emailed the head of housing, I've emailed the head of the council about this, and just chucking it down the long grass is ridiculous. I've given you fair notice, and if it's not been discussed properly today, I will write to the Secretary of State and ask for him to intervene. Thank you.
Councillor, you're perfectly willing to write to whoever you want. I am the chair of this panel, and at that I am the panel servant. So whatever the panel say that I should do or must do, I shall try, and in fact I will go along with those recommendations. I've got two more speakers. Councillor Pomfret.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought we were discussing whether the item should be included now in the work programme. I thought that's what we were doing, discussing the work programme rather than any particular items on it. I'm quite prepared for the this item to be on a work programme. I don't know whether any other members have other suggestions for items to go on the work programme. I suggest we get the work programme issue out of the way and then we move on to item 6. Thank you, Chair.
Well, I was hoping that's the way we would be going, that we would say, yes, we want to see a report in front of the panel, and that report should come up with all the facts and figures that Councillor Condikar seem to be worried about at the present moment, and let's get everything up and running for the next meeting. Councillor Watkins.
Yeah, thank you again, Chair. I have no problem with you putting this on the work programme, none at all. However, I just didn't want to waste anybody's time, because what I wanted to point out is that we've done risk assessments, the work is being done, and we will complete the work. So the problem is being solved. So and then it leads me on to my other thing is, you know, do you want to know when we're going to replace windows, when we're going to replace doors, when we're going to replace, you know, it's an ongoing thing. It's a bit of a double-edged sword for you, Chair, but like I say, I'll be here throughout the meeting, questions, but it's not exactly a work programme because the work is being done.
Okay, thanks for that contribution. Before I bring in Councillor Tandy, there's remiss of me, but Mrs. Condikar, you wish to speak on item number 11. My apologies, I should have called you earlier.
I don't think this is number 11, is it?
This is item number 13.
Yes.
Ah, so sorry, I'm getting confused again. This is I had this discussion earlier on. It was 11 to 13. So my apologies for that. Councillor Tandy.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little confused because Councillor Condikar said that the figures that he wants to consider are actually in the paperwork that we have. I would appreciate if he could tell me on what page the figures are printed in the document. All I have on this is the back page at 196. I'd be grateful to be told, so I can look for myself exactly where the details and all the figures are printed in this document.
Anybody can help? Anybody can help us?
If it helps, Chair, the cost projected on page 142 in the top paragraph, and it was updated in yesterday's cabinet report on a similar page. So page 142, it had the cost as of the end of August as 396,000. And it's now gone up to 702,000. Sorry, 706,000 as of yesterday's cabinet report.
Well, I haven't seen yesterday's cabinet report, Chair.
No, neither have I.
Yeah.
I would prefer it to come back to, if everybody agrees that it should go back to the panel, let's get it back to the panel and let's go through the fine details then. I think that would be the best way forward, because we're going to go round in circles here, and perhaps that's not the best way to be. Councillor Evans.
Sorry, Chair, could I just clarify, does Councillor Kandaka wish to discuss this item this evening? Because there's two things here. Item 13 is to, correct me if I'm wrong, the Scrutiny Work Programme suggestion form, which is what Councillor Kandaka has submitted. We need to decide whether or not that becomes part of the work programme. Now, I haven't got a problem with that, and I think that's unanimous across the committee, but I'm confused. Does Councillor Kandaka want us to talk about this tonight? Basically do what we would do tonight, but at a different meeting? I'm just confused.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Evans. There's as far as I was concerned, it was we were going to discuss as part of the work programme, and if the panel felt that it should be part of the work panel programme, that we should do that, get the facts and figures around in front of us for the next panel. If that's the way everybody wants to go, let's do that and try and get the facts and figures in front of us, because we're trying to make informed decisions here. We're not trying to make decisions on what happened somewhere else. And as far as I'm concerned, if the panel thinks it should go on to the next meeting, by all means, let's get the reports up in front of us and try and make informed choices. Does everybody agree with that?
What?
Chair, I'm quite prepared to move that course of action.
Okay. Shall I find a seconder? I'll see Councillor Evans, you've got your hand up again.
Yes, Chair. I do think it needs to be discussed at one of these committees, and perhaps tonight is not the best option, but I do think it's a very, very urgent matter, fire safety in particular, with what happened with Grenfell. So could I suggest actually, as Chair, you call an extraordinary meeting of this committee in order to discuss this specific item?
Thanks for that, Councillor. My concern is, while saying that, I don't know if that's what the panel decides, if that's what the panel decides. But considering this has been in front of the Cabinet and in front of, I think, somewhere else before, it's already been discussed, and it seems as though the safety factors are already factor in, if that's not the wrong way about it. Councillor Watkins, I'll bring you back in again to see if you can give us any more information on what you think, what has already been discussed and what's already been agreed by Cabinet.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Like I said previously, I was trying to save you a little bit of time. We've done fire risk assessments. Fire risk assessments are living documents. They can change. We've done the fire risk assessments. We changed our policy and we're doing some work. In the meantime, Warwickshire Fire and Rescue Service asked us to put in Waking Watch. We did that. So everything that was brought up in the fire risk assessments, we have done. By the end of this financial year, everything that was brought up in the fire risk assessment will be done. And so the Waking Watch will be removed by the end of this financial year. There are some councillors that keep on contacting the housing department and demanding more and more and more. Let me explain about the fire risk assessment. Fire risk assessment can tell you personal information about some of the residents. So no councillor, including me, will be getting that information. It could tell you that Joe Bloggs lives on the ground floor and is incapable of getting out, so he needs assistance by the Waking Watch, for instance. And so the Waking Watch will be there to help him out if, whilst this get out, stay safe policy is in place. But when we go back to the stay put policy, the fire brigade will know where Joe Bloggs lives and will go there and assist him out. Everything has been covered in the fire risk assessment, and all the work will be done by the end of the financial year. There will be no Waking Watch at any independent living unit. We have done everything that we've been asked to do, and like I said before, the Warwickshire Fire and Rescue, the professionals in fire are happy with what we're doing. I don't know what else to say, Chair. I am absolutely flabbergasted that somebody would be wanting to do more work on this. The work's been done. Let the officers and the professionals get on with it and get the work done by the end of the financial year. There is my promise. It will be done. Thank you.
Okay, I've got two more speakers, and then let's get to some sort of resolution. Councillor Evans. Oh, you were there, but you've gone. Councillor Condicor, then.
Thank you. Can I second Councillor Evans' suggestion we talk about this at an urgent extra meeting? And we may need an extra meeting for some of the overflow from this meeting as well anyway. And the key points are, the only thing we've known so far is the cost of the Waking Watch. We haven't had any details on anything else. And secondly, there is the issue of what happens in the daytime when the Waking Watch isn't there. And I say the incident at the Priory that people told me about, it was in the daytime. So I do think we need to urgently clarify what happens in that daytime situation when the alarm goes off. And Chris is wrong. We should be talking about it to make sure that people are happy that we've covered all the bases and not just trust. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, okay. Well, that's proposal and seconder to say that we should have a special meeting to discuss this. What's the panel's opinion?
Chair, I did move a proposal that the item goes to the next meeting.
Okay. That find a seconder. Councillor Pomfret.
I'll second that, Chair.
Okay.
We've got two proposals now, but yeah, okay.
Okay, so if we take Councillor, I've got a point of order here. What's Councillor Evans?
Thank you, Chair. You didn't actually find a seconder for Councillor Tandy's original motion when she raised it. So the only, the first motion that you need to determine is my recommendation, is that's the one that was done officially and properly in accordance with the Constitution.
And could you give us a reminder on that again, Councillor, just in case anybody is not up to speed?
Yeah, so that an extraordinary meeting of this panel be formed by yourself, Chair, in order to discuss the issues raised by Councillor in his Scrutiny work programme suggestion form.
Okay, I obviously found a seconder with Councillor Condicor. Councillor Pomfret.
Sorry, Chair, should have put my hand down.
Okay, Councillor Tandy.
Thank you. Just to make progress, Chair, because it's immaterial to me either way. So I'm quite happy to go along with having a special meeting of this committee. A one-item meeting, Chair, with this as the only item on the agenda.
I shall take that as a friendly amendment. Would the proposer and seconder agree with that?
Yeah, I think we need to move forward, Chair.
Yeah, proposer, you in favour of that?
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Okay. Any dissent from the panel? Everybody in favour of calling a special meeting? I can't see any dissent, so we'll move forward to the next agenda item. Thank you for that. Thanks for the contributions. Right, we've got the SLM report. Who's taking item number 6?
Hello, thank you, Chair. My name's Gilbert Baines. I'm the contract officer for leisure. We've got Joe Warren to do the presentation for SLM. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, if you want to proceed, and then we'll get questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Is somebody going to display the presentation on the screen for us?
Yeah, I'm just getting it ready now.
Thank you.
Everyone see that?
Yeah. Before we start, it was remiss of me also. We've got a new clerk with us tonight, Victoria. So hopefully it won't be too onerous tonight anyway, Victoria. But welcome to the internal panel. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are going to provide an overview of the last 12 months, and we will start with an overview of our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Victoria. The next one after that, thank you. Thank you. So COVID-19 has obviously had a huge impact on us as an organisation. We closed on the 20th of March, all 4 of the leisure centres in Nuneaton and Bedworth, and we were fortunate to be able to reopen in July, 22nd of July, after 4 months of closure. The pandemic has had a huge impact on us, specifically in a significant reduction in usage, and now obviously the second lockdown as well. If you could go to the next slide again, please, Victoria. Over the next few slides, you'll have a overview of the safety measures that we implemented across all of the leisure centres in Nuneaton and Bedworth. As part of reopening, we obviously completed a reopening risk assessment, which is an ongoing and live process as well for all of our centres. And as an organisation, we worked closely with UK Active and Swim England, who are governing bodies, who in turn worked closely with Public Health England. Next slide again, please, Victoria. So as well as the various control measures that you'll be able to see detailed within the presentation, we obviously introduced a booking system as well for all of our activities. So whereas previously some of our activities such as swim lessons and group exercise classes were always on a booking basis, we've gone that step further now, and even activities like lane swimming, public swimming, family swimming, and even access to the gym, that is now all pre-booked. And on to the next slide, please, Victoria. You'll see in the photo an example of one of the gym layouts. That's at Bedworth Leisure Centre. And again, within the slide, an overview of some more measures that were in place within the leisure centres. And as things have developed, as we've seen on the news, those measures are updated, and that's included the introduction of the NHS Test and Trace app, and things like encouraging users to wear face coverings when they're in the centres and not taking part in activities. Next slide, please, Victoria. So this provides an overview of the phased reopening of the facilities. And this was something that allowed us to make sure that we were thorough in our approach, and could be sure that whatever we were reopening was as safe as possible. So phase 1 was our fitness facilities at the end of July, phase 2 our swimming facilities at the end of August, and then beyond that, from September through to the start of November, we continue to reopen the facilities at Eton, Jubilee, and then other activities like family swimming and public swimming, and the cafe areas as well. Next slide, please, Victoria. The plan was for all of the leisure centres to have been fully open for the 1st of November, and we got about 4 days of that until we had to close again for lockdown number 2. I mentioned at the start of the presentation the reduction in attendance at all of the leisure centres. I think you'll notice there has been a big drop off in attendance as a result of COVID. But Victoria, if you could go to the next slide again, please. What's positive is that you'll see from the graph there, the gradual consistent increase in usage since we reopened the facilities in July up until October. Next slide again, please. We were really happy on reopening with the amount of overwhelmingly positive feedback that we received from all of the users, whether it was the swimming club, families coming for swimming lessons or just public swimming, or people coming to use the fitness activities. Like I say, a good summary, overwhelming positive feedback in terms of how people felt safe and were happy with the procedures that we had in place. Next slide, please. So COVID aside, feedback obviously continues to come through to us at the leisure centres through various means. A big one nowadays is social media. We collate a lot of verbal and website feedback through our Atrema or single customer view system, and we obviously have Google reviews as well. You'll see that of all of the leisure centres, we're almost now all above 4 for reviews out of 5 on Google. Next slide, please, Victoria. So Quest is a quality assessment for leisure centres in the UK. We completed our last assessments at all 4 centres in 2020. Sorry, they were due to be completed in 2020, but this was delayed obviously due to the pandemic and is now pushed forward to next year. And the aspiration for us next year is to show our continuous improvement and get the sites up to the next level in each category. Next slide, please. We continue to work with various awarding bodies in the leisure industry and the fitness industry, Swim England, Investors in People and UK Active, and we were pleased to have been recently awarded a charter from the Warwickshire Equality and Inclusion Partnership, which was based around the work we'd done on equality training and raising awareness specifically on the rise of hate crime. Next slide, please. As part of our activity development, one of our key areas is swimming lessons. We've got hugely popular schemes at Pingles and Bedworth leisure centres. We reported to you last year that we had over 4,300 swimmers learning to swim across the 2 leisure centres. The impact of COVID has seen that figure now reduced to 3,400. Next slide, please. I suppose one positive of the pandemic is that it's forced us to really look at and make significant improvements to our digital offering. So we released the Everyone on Demand package during the pandemic, and we've developed that further over the past few weeks and months as well. This is a range of digital fitness packages that allow our members and the community to continue to reach their health goals even when we are in lockdown and they're forced to work out at home or at the outside. Next slide, please. We spent significant time over the last 12 months in giving back to the local community through various charity fundraising initiatives. We've also worked closely with the local authority, particularly the sports development teams, on developing our colleagues and our centres, predominantly through training and other improvements aimed at improving accessibility, in particular to those who live in the community and have health conditions such as dementia. Next slide, please. A project that we had put together at the start of 2020 that we wanted to complete within 2020 and going into 2021 as well was a pledge to achieve 5 community initiatives. COVID's obviously had an impact on our ability to deliver that, but we're still determined that over the next year that we are going to be able to deliver those 5 initiatives. And it includes things like providing free activity for people in the borough who are affected by health inequalities, as well as providing training for local young people in life-saving skills and lifeguarding qualifications. Next slide, please, Victoria. We continue to operate the Sporting Champions scheme. This recognises high-performing athletes in the borough and provides them the opportunity to access our facilities for free to train for their sport. We've grown this scheme from 4 participants last year now through to 12 participants. Next slide, please, Victoria. Passport to Leisure obviously continues to be a focus for our community development, and whilst we're keen to work closer on addressing the specific needs and inequalities in health in the community, we're pleased that we were on track in 1920 to exceed previous years' sign-ups to Passport to Leisure. And again, pleasing that since we've reopened in July, that we've seen a good uptake again in Passport to Leisure, showing that various members of the community are coming back to the leisure centres. And then just onto the last slide, please, Victoria, which provides an overview of Passport to Leisure in all of the wards. And then the final slide after that. Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you. Now, thanks for the report. We have a public speaker, and Mrs. Condicor, you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you. It was only just one small comment, really. Obviously, a lot of it has now gone, you've got to book and things. Is there still means that people who haven't got access to, booking online can still do the activities? Because I'm just conscious that in terms of inequalities, it will often be poorer people or older people who might need, to use or want to use the leisure centres but don't have access to, paying online things. So I just wondered sort of how that's been tackled. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. I mean, obviously a big part of what we're trying to do is to encourage people where they can to use the app or the website so that we can reduce contact in the centres with our colleagues and customers. But clearly not everybody has the access to do that. So people can still book when they're in the centre, and they can book over the phone as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Gondico. I have a couple of 3 hands up. First one, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the report. I think we also have to look at this report in the context that everyone active has come to this council on 2 occasions and had a bailout to the tune of £180,000 each time. And I know that leisure centres up and down the country, because I'm speaking to other Conservative leaders nationwide, know that this is an issue, and that there have been threats nationwide, including from the same provider that we have, that if local authorities do not pay up, that the provider would then have no choice but to hand back the contract to the council. Which is why I have to say, Chair, I'm absolutely appalled and astounded at what I have read in the report about a donation that Everyone Active have made to National Emergencies Trust of £500,000 out of the membership fees they've had. Now, I'm sure that the National Emergencies Trust do very good work and did very good work throughout COVID. But this has effectively been, because of the bailouts we have made as a council, at the council taxpayers' expense. I really am lost for words on this, because we are, as an authority, looking for ways of keeping other services going across the piece. We have, I think the Cabinet report last night showed an £800,000 deficit that we've got to find to balance the books because of COVID. And yet we've bailed out Everyone Active to the tune of £180,000 twice. At the same time, they have made a donation off their own bat of £500,000. They could have covered their own costs with that £500,000 and not had to come to the council for a bailout, and we would not be looking as a council for as much money. Whilst I'm all for helping out communities, how are we going to help out our own communities in Nuneaton and Bedworth if, as an authority, We need to scrape around to try and find the money to balance the books of £800,000. Was this declared to the council at the time that officers approved the 2 bailouts? Because when I've had discussions with officers about the bailouts, I took them on good faith that these bailouts were absolutely necessary and vital for our leisure services to function and continue. And to read this in the report, I'm astounded, Chair, because finances are tight and no member, if they did, then those members should hold their hands up and come to the committee and state why they did. But to my knowledge, no one on my side of the chamber was at all made aware of this donation and the implications that that has for council finances. And I would like officers to explain, if they knew, why did they agree to it? And if they knew that this donation had been made, effectively using council taxpayers' money, why they then agreed to 2 separate bailouts of £180,000. To me, that is financial mismanagement on a grand scale, Chair. I'm sorry, I'm livid about this.
Chair, it's Simon Fern, Area Manager for Everyone Active. If you wouldn't mind me responding to the...
Yes, by all means, yeah.
If I can clarify, I think there's been a misunderstanding. SLM as an organisation committed £500,000 from those members across the country of our 200 plus estate sites. They continue to pay their full membership fees during the period of lockdown. So during the time when our sites were closed, members were given the opportunity to freeze their membership and pay nothing, or continue to pay their subscription, to which we would contribute half that contribution to the emergency fund. So at no point have we given away any funds from the authority. We've actually committed half of the amount of money from those people across our whole business who continue to provide their own money to us as an organisation. We therefore contributed half of that amount to emergencies fund. So there's been no money used provided by the local authority of Nuneaton and Bedworth or any of our other partners for the purposes to that charity. So we have not given away any of the local authorities' money or taxpayers' money. This is money directly from those members and those customers that we've had since the 1st of April, and they've continued to pay our money, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Chair,
Before
if I can come back on that, please.
Go on, Councillor Wilson.
That's not how this report reads. So the report should have been written better, because this is talking specifically about community development in Nuneaton and Bedworth. But even so, the argument that Mr. Fern has put forward isn't entirely accurate. Yes, it is members' fees that have gone forward, but instead of keeping those membership fees, you've donated them to a charity. But then there must have been an element of some of those being Nuneaton and Bedworth fees going forward, and that money has gone off to charity. But yet we've been stung with 2 lots of £180,000 bailout.
Chair, I understand the obviously the member's point. However, it was the individual customer's decision. We did not imply to anybody they should continue to pay this money. It was an individual's decision if they wanted to contribute to that emergency charity, and therefore that charity was considered a worthwhile cause for the organisation to support, and therefore any individual was able to decline that, pay no money to the organisation during the period of lockdown, or contribute that amount to the emergency charities. So those people continue to pay on the basis of that contribution to the emergency charity, not to the organisation.
Councillor Elliott.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, I didn't realise I was next. So thanks, Joe, for the report. I really hope that the government managed to get a handle on the pandemic better, so that things are all reopened as soon as possible. Just a little point that it would be helpful to have page numbering. I'm just looking for the page that have 2 questions on. Well, 1 question and 1 just general comment. The question is regarding the community development, I think it is. I'm struggling to find the page. Sporting Champions Scheme. And it may be that the same as the last response, that it was more national than local, but I think I heard you say that 12 borough residents are in a local scheme and are being supported for various range of sports, including, and the first one is figure skating. So I just wondered where in the borough they're doing figure skating, or if I got that wrong. That's my question. And the point I would just like to raise, really, and it may be to Gurmuk rather than yourselves, is regarding the passport to leisure. The figures showing perhaps the highest intake of passport to leisure. I think the highest is Camp Hill, but then the next highest is Weddington. Whitestone's pretty high. At another meeting I was at recently, they were discussing how there's a greater need for mental health support in the south of the county than the north of the county. And I believe it was Councillor Condicott that made the point that in actual fact, in the north of the county, the need is as high, if not considerably higher. The trouble is the paperwork is a barrier to accessing the support needed. So the paperwork for passport to leisure, my comment is, can we make it less onerous to complete, because it is quite difficult. So thanks, Chair.
Okay, can somebody answer those questions, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Elliott, thank you. Hopefully we can reopen soon and it's a bit more steady after that. Comment about page numbers is noted, so I'll take that on board. Thank you. With regards to the sporting champions, yes, correct. That's 12 people on the scheme this year. They all live within the borough of Nuneaton and Bedworth. But yes, clearly we don't have figure skating facilities, so it may be that they go outside of the borough to complete the technical aspects of their training and obviously to compete. But as they compete at a high level within that sport and live within the borough, that's why we've chosen to support them with their training that they can do within the leisure centres in terms of fitness and so on. The point regarding passport to leisure, mental health support and so on, we obviously want to work and address as many health inequalities in the borough as we can. And in terms of the paperwork for passport to leisure, it is generally just an application form. And then there is a need for applicants to provide evidence as well, just so that we've got a record and can confirm that they are eligible for the scheme. But I'll take that on board and I'll have a look at that application process. And even if we can simplify the form or look at an online option or something like that, I'll see what we can do with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I've got a few questions, if I may. My first question is in relation to membership retention within everyone active, and I'm just interested to hear from Joe or Simon as to what you've got in place to retain the members that you've got at the moment. So, for example, my health club and gym is offering me a month off my membership fee in order to keep me as a member. So I'm just interested as to what you're doing. The second question, Community Development Pledge 2021, it commits £2,021 of funding will be provided for free activity for people affected by health inequalities. Just interested in how that's going to work. Are they going to be referred by GPs or the NHS? So I'm just interested in how people will be able to access that. whenever Glendale or Everyone Active comes to this panel, I always inform my constituents beforehand, and I do have a comment from one of my constituents that she's asked me to share to this panel this evening. So this is from Teresa. Council staff need to do a proper inspection of Bedworth Leisure Centre run by Everyone Active. It is so dirty, months of no hot water, no toilet roll or basin soap. Gym staff wouldn't show how to use equipment and rude, especially those on reception. I complain like other people on their Facebook page and in writing to the management with photos of thick black dirt build-up, black mould, thick layer of dust on fire extinguisher, and so much more. The response was, it is adequately clean. I took a swab of the changing room floor. Lab result shocked me so much I cancelled my membership the next day. I'm just interested in what the management response would be to that. As the shadow cabinet member for Arts and Leisure, I gave my conditional support for the £180,000 bailout. Yet when I read these comments from my constituents about Bedworth Leisure Centre, and I accept Bedworth has got its problems, it's a very old building, but I'm not impressed when I hear those comments, particularly when you're receiving so much money from our taxpayers. So I'd be interested in what you've got to say in response to Teresa's comments.
Chair, if I can take that up as area manager to start off with, and then obviously I'll let Joe deal with a couple of more local issues. First of all, the first question was regards to how we're managing memberships. We have frozen all memberships of all of our relevant sim members or fitness members for the month of November. We're taking no money for those. We have also greatly reduced our membership fees since we reopened, so our fees are reduced now in line now with all of our competition across the borough. So we think very proactively responded to trying to generate and not only just retain our existing members, but also look at new memberships. And I think we were starting to see during September and the early stages of October an increase in our sales performance, certainly to former levels of recovery before Pure Gym were introduced into the borough. With regards to Bedworth, I would hope that not only my colleague Joe, but also Gurmak as the lead client officer for the authority will refute those comments from that customer councillor, because Gurmak obviously works with Joe and the team across Everyone Active on the standards we deliver across all of our sites. And I think if we had that level of what I would call appalling feedback on a consistent basis, we wouldn't be sitting here in front of you now. And I think the authority would by now have brought us into a level of default to address those standards. I certainly visit the site and the contracts on a regular basis, certainly on a weekly basis. I haven't seen that, but I would probably leave it to Gurmak to answer that if I can on behalf of the authority as a client management assessment.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Yeah, from the council point of view, I do carry out regular inspections, and quite a lot of them are notified, so I could turn up any time of the day. What I've found is that obviously through high use times, yes, it will show signs of use, and I've seen it myself. But at quieter times, it is clean. They do have regular deep cleans on the pool side, which the facility itself is aged. And a couple of years ago, I did do a report on the hygiene levels at Bedworth. So it's quite intense. So we did find that, again, due to the age of some of the fixtures and fittings, it came up as that, it did appear as unhygienic or dirty. But like Simon said, if it was more so on a very consistent basis and any actions that I've asked for Joe and his team to do and they weren't carried out, then yes, they would be brought before us. The overwhelming feedback that I've seen, whether it's online or through the single customer view from Everyone Active, is very, very positive. So it's unfortunate that your constituent had this experience, but if it was on a regular basis, then yes, that we would take action.
But Chair, if I can come back here, actually,
Okay, Councillor Evans, come.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Actually, when I look at social media, the concerns that Teresa has raised are things that I do read on social media a lot about Bedworth Leisure Centre, and I can't testify that myself because I don't use Bedworth Leisure Centre. But actually, from the reason I've raised this, and I wouldn't bring this to the committee's attention if I felt it was inaccurate, but I do read this on social media frequently, and my concern is, as a councillor, I've given my conditional support to a bailout, and to be quite honest, I don't expect to be seeing these sorts of comments on social media about Bedworth Leisure Centre. But if I can come back to the point that Simon raised about in response to my question about membership retention, you're telling me that you're freezing membership. Sorry, you're reducing membership costs, yet you're asking us for a bailout of £180,000. I'm really confused, and I'm as the shadow cabinet member, I did give my conditional support to that bailout. Unfortunately, given what I've heard tonight, I think I need to revisit that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. All I would say is we are having to respond in a marketplace which is trying to deliver a service, a leisure service, at a time of completely unprecedented times. We are trying to maintain a level of business which allows us to become self-sufficient as quickly as possible in a time when the country is now in its second lockdown. We are having increased cases of uncertainty and customer confidence returning to our business. We felt that while people are potentially facing hardship through loss of employment or being placed in furlough, the only way we could address that was by becoming more accessible through our financial packages we were offering to those customers. And if that made us more attractive to people who were going to our competition, such as Pure Gym, the Empire, Nuffield, I consider that to be a justifiable commercial decision, which we made very clear to the authority was going to be our strategy. We made that decision across the whole of our 200+ estate, as that was our strategic decision. We've proved that our original forecast that we provided to the authority when we first went into this period of lockdown has been improved upon significantly. So whilst we very much appreciate the financial support of the authority, we've improved on that performance because we've been able to strategically and nationally react to the challenges put in front of us. And whilst we are certainly not out of these unprecedented times with or without a vaccine, we hope to continue to improve that performance so we can become self-sufficient at the earliest opportunity. Thank you very much, Chair.
But Chair, if I can come back here, if I can come back to your first point, Mr. Fern, and please, if I'm wrong, just interrupt and correct me. You said that you gave your membership the option of donating 50% of their costs to the charity that's been mentioned. So if someone's paying £10 a month, £5 of that goes to the charity. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chair.
In which case, I'm lost for words. I really am. Thank you.
Councillor Condicor.
Thank you very much, Chair. One of the big things that's saving people from COVID is actually being very fit and healthy. And unfortunately, we've got quite a low life expectancy in Nuneaton and Bedworth and a lot of obesity. But there's also a big pent-up demand to get fit again. It's good to hear you had a lot of sales pick up in September. Is there much planned to get us fit in a sort of New Year programme? And obviously some of that may need to be outside or in different venues. I mean, you did lots of classes and things. are you able to look at using your staff outdoors or into the more spacious venues to just try and get a good kickstart to 2021? Because we desperately need to get ourselves healthier and get some mental health as well out of the back of this.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Condacor. So yeah, we're obviously hoping that we can reopen again at the start of or early December, which puts us in a good position for the new year. It's a difficult time of year, I suppose, compared to the summer, especially for doing anything outdoors, as you'll understand with the weather. I think one of the big opportunities that we do have is using bigger space. So, for example, we've got the sports hall at Jubilee Sports Centre, which is where we've been doing our group exercise classes. The space in there allows us to maintain social distancing and still have a good number of people taking part in the classes there. And they've been really popular, and that's been a huge part in enabling us to sell the level of memberships that we have been able to do so over the past few months.
Okay, thanks. Mrs. Ross.
Hello, can you hear me?
You're very faint, Dee. Could you try again, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can just about hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to Simon and Joe, Tingles opened in 2003, and since that time, I've been a swimmer with the early birds going at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I'm quite amazed, really, when you mentioned that members were notified about donations to charity. Now, I know you do regularly email me about activities going on, but I certainly am not aware, and I certainly haven't been approached or have read anything at all about any donations to any charity. So I'm quite surprised at that.
Thank you.
Hear what I've heard today.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mrs. I think we need to clarify the charity donation. So to confirm, when we closed the leisure centres at the end of March, during that lockdown period over the summer, we automatically froze all of our members' memberships. So we didn't charge, we didn't get any income from them. What we did give people the option to do was to continue paying their membership to supporters. But as part of that, we said to them, if you want to continue paying to supporters, we will donate 50% of that payment to charity. So that's the only charity donation that was made. We haven't taken everybody's membership and donated half of it to charity. It was just as part of that agreement, I suppose, to try and encourage people to support us during lockdown. And you could potentially argue that if we didn't make that I suppose compromise or agreement that we would also donate to charity, we might not have had the same uptake in people wanting to continue to support us. So it was purely optional during the lockdown period.
I just think it's very nebulous, really, that we didn't have a more in-depth point on the donations. It has just come up at this meeting, and I think it has surprised everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mrs. Ross. Right, Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would agree with Mrs. Ross. It does seem quite nebulous about this charitable donation. At the end of the day, I appreciate that everyone active are a business, but they're a business who have a default position of coming back to the council for a bailout and effectively have us over a barrel to actually have to pay that money out. If we don't, then we would have to take on the whole contract again. Surely it would have made more sense. And did anyone consider, from everyone active, actually asking people to pay perhaps a reduced subs coming in, but without donating it, so that it could keep the contract going? If these are people who, if they are paying a gym membership subscription, they may have been able to actually say, yes, we will continue paying this, so that it isn't the council taxpayers that have to bail out our organisation, because these people are likely to have an element of disposable income if they are going to a gym membership. And I think that would have been a far better way to go, because at a time when we are having to make difficult decisions to balance the books in light of COVID, I think that would have been the more responsible thing to do, instead of relying on us. I appreciate that officers did go line by line through a lot of what the claims were from everyone active, and did not pay out everyone active what they asked for. But it could have been in a far better position if this whole nebulous idea hadn't been come up with, because at the end of the day, it's us that have to bail them out, and we aren't a bottomless pit of money.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Gurmit, you've got your hand up. Did you wish to come back?
Not on that point, no, Chair. Thank you.
So, what point did you want to come back in then?
I didn't realise I had my hand up, Chair. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Right, you've heard the debate. Where do we go from here? Do we note the report and ask officers to look at Councillor Evans?
Thank you, Chair. Is it possible to request from everyone active if they send members or this committee or the council how much they've lost in membership fees over recent months, just broadly across the board, if that's possible.
Is that possible?
Chair, if I can confirm that my one of your colleagues, Kevin Hollis, director, has got his hand up. I think he can answer that, but I can certainly confirm we provide monthly accounts to the authority with regards to our month-by-month performance, and also our year-on-year performance and our forecasted performance to year-end. So I can certainly confirm, obviously, that is being provided, but I'll leave that to Kevin to respond accordingly.
Kevin, your hand's gone up now. I hadn't noticed your hand before, Kevin, so if you can respond, please.
Thank you, Chair. I apologise. I just got cut out and came back in. I did have my hand up before because I just thought it'd be worth just providing a summary. So
I've never seen it. Yeah. Okay.
But I just wanted to summarise it. It has been very challenging times for a number of organisations and businesses, and I think leisure has had its effect on that. And we have been working very closely with everyone active as a real key partner locally. I think just to reaffirm, in terms of we've been following the government guidelines around the PPN notices in terms of supporting and working with procurement and key contractors. So we are making sure that we are being as prudent as we can in the current climate, and working with Simon, Joe and the team to make sure that we encourage our members to come back and have that confidence to do that. And that's something we have been doing from the phase return in July up until November, and then we will be doing exactly the same again. As Simon has pointed out, it is very challenging times to get members to come back in terms of confidence and coming back to the sites, and it has needed some support to get them to maintain their membership levels. And as you will see on their activity and programme development, they have actually been over and above retaining their members at the Pingle 75%, where the industry average is 65%. So they've done very well in terms of retaining and bringing members back. As they've pointed out, they've lost nearly just under 1,000 members, and I know that working with them and with Gurmit, that they will be looking to reclaim those members back into the new year. And I think something that Simon did mention is that we have a very competitive health and fitness market in Nuneaton and Bedworth, so it is challenging to compete for those members, and I'm aware that they're doing everything they can to bring those back into those leisure sites. I apologise, I didn't get the last question. Chair, could you just feed that back to me, because I got cut off. I had to rejoin. Was there a specific question for me to answer to, Chair?
Councillor Evans, would you like to repeat your question?
Yeah. Hi, Kevin. The question was, in the accounts that you get from everyone active each month for their performance or whatever it's called, are you able to give us the information of how much they've lost in membership fees, month by month or quarterly or?
Chair, Councillor Evans, it's confidential information because it's a leisure contract. So we have to be commercially sensitive in terms of that, and I'm sure you appreciate that in the current climate as well. So in terms of numbers and stats, we can provide you that, but the financial elements are commercially sensitive and as part of the leisure contract.
Would you be able to provide us that on pink paper?
I would need to take that advice from legal and see whether that is something that we can discuss. But as I say, I'm quite clear in terms of the commercial sensitivity because obviously other companies would be interested. So I just need to take some advice off that, Councillor Evans, and I'll come back to you after the meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Was saying that there's welcome the reporters in front of us. It's been a hard, well, this year has been really terrible, and I think what the SLM contract did, and everybody from everyone active, etc., are doing a relatively good job. You've heard the comments from panel members tonight, so I wish for you to take them into consideration and look forward to the next annual report. Is that all right with everybody?
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 7, monitoring of grounds maintenance. David, have you taken this?
Good evening, Chair. Let me just turn my video on. Yes, Chair. If I may, if I introduce my element of the report, and then I'll hand over to Mike Brunskill from Glendale, who will deliver his element of the report, and we'll take questions after that.
Okay.
Okay. Chair, obviously, COVID-19 has had a significant impact on delivery of our grounds maintenance contract since March this year. As members will be aware, our services were triaged for several months during the lockdown period. We've had to introduce a number of changes to working practices, and it remains challenging even now as we're in a second lockdown, and as our contractors' staff remain on standby should they be needed to be redeployed to other activities within the council services. One of the areas that our grounds maintenance contractor fulfills duties for is within our cemeteries, and we've been working with them to ensure that there are robust plans in place so that we can continue to provide that service at a particularly sensitive time. Relating to the contract itself, at the time of the last report, there were 2 items that were outstanding at that time. One related to bringing horticultural features into line. Obviously, COVID-19 has had an impact on that, and that work remains ongoing at this stage. And the intention is now that we should bring that all up to date by the end of this financial year. I would also point out to members that this element of the contract is being undertaken by Glendale at no cost to the council. The second item related to the development and implementation of the CRM firm step interface. This allows customer services to refer relevant grounds maintenance inquiries directly to the contractor. I have provided some initial figures at table at 7.4 in the report. It also links to Glendale's microsite, which allows members of the public to see up and coming maintenance tasks. That data can now be analysed to look at emerging trends and will facilitate development of action plans going forward. And that is now up and running and has been really since we came out of lockdown at the end of July. We have continued to undertake works throughout the year as and where we are able. And that's been undertaken in addition, and separately from the main contract. We've used the flexibility that the new contract has provided us to introduce some early grass cuts into February, March next year, depending on ground conditions, so that we can get the best possible start going forward. Section 5, customers' satisfaction ratings. Obviously, members will recall that we only used to receive a handful of satisfaction cards, and at the last meeting, and given that the the statistical results from those were flawed and insignificant at best. That the membership cards have now been dropped since that report in June. We've been working on a new online system which is going through testing during November. It is currently live, and we will be analysing that data, and we'll bring that to the panel at a later date. In terms of monitoring performance, you can see from the charts that I've included there, obviously on formal sites, the contract has on average been recording an average of 81% against the base requirement of 80 on formal sites. There's a couple of anomalies in April and May, in that at the time we were unable to provide data and the system automatically records that. So I have ignored those because it would slew the system. You'll also note where we've looked at is the number of sites that were being monitored, and that would bring me on to the informal monitoring sites. Obviously, those scores there have not been as good as we would have hoped they would be. That has been influenced somewhat by the reduced level of monitoring that we were able to undertake at that time, and obviously our desire to concentrate on those sites that had been identified as having particular issues. So we were working with the contractor on those, progressing with clarifications where necessary. We have seen some revisions to the bill of quantities as a result of that, where there were anomalies with the contract as it was originally prepared. And we continue to work closely with our contractor, obviously, on ensuring that we bring that up to standard as soon as possible. If I may, at that point, I will hand over to Mike Brunskill from Glendale, and they will take you through their report.
Okay, thanks for that, Mike.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Chair. Some aspects of David's report do overlap a little with our report, so I'll endeavour to speed through it. I apologise in advance for the lack of page numbers, as we've commented on before in a previous report, and we'll endeavour to put that right next time. In summary terms, this year is the first year of the new Glendale contract. We had hoped to provide a more thorough report about the improvements and changes and the steps we're taking to improve the service in both now and in the future. Unfortunately, it has been overshadowed by circumstances. But in general terms, I would like to note that the local management team and staff have performed in exemplary fashion throughout both the lockdown and restrictions since, in continuing to provide as near as possible or as close as possible a full service. And we would like to also acknowledge the support provided to us by the Nuneaton and Bedworth client team during that time. Needless to say, we have worked very closely both within Nuneaton and Bedworth and across the wider organisation to ensure that all our staff have been able to work safely where permissible. And in Nuneaton and Bedworth, it was determined that our staff were essential workers because of the services we provide, particularly around the cemeteries. And we have maintained that level of service throughout. We continually review our risk assessment around COVID working arrangements, and we seek to minimise through working practices any disruption to the service by staff having to self-isolate, but not spreading the problem across the rest of the workforce through working in isolated bubbles where possible, additional vehicles to reduce the numbers of occupants, etc. We've also undertaken some additional training for staff so that we can increase the capacity of our resource, particularly for cemetery activities. And also we have undertaken training in conjunction with the council to provide support should it be required in other services, such as refuse collection. So we've been on standby for that as well. Specifically, the impact of COVID-19 this year has meant the removal of or reduction of some services, in particular a grass cut this year, the removal of summer hanging baskets, the closure of some of the outdoor sporting facilities, and play areas as well. And that's clearly impacted on the residents of Nuneaton Bedworth, and it has also impacted on Glendale in terms of a loss of revenue. And we've absorbed that loss of revenue in maintaining the service, but we have been supported well by the council in terms of payments made promptly for works carried out, enabling us to remain liquid during in cash flow terms during this period. Glendale Live, which is a work programme and quality monitoring system, is a key tool for us to deliver the service, manage the service, and provide visibility of our performance. And in round numbers, we've completed over 120 1,000 schedules, a schedule being a job at a particular place at a particular time. And overall, that equates to almost 94% of work completed that was scheduled, evidenced by almost 250,000 photographs of the work we've undertaken at the sites in question. As David mentioned, we've also adopted the use of the new firm step system, which has been rolled out through the year. And although generally working well, we recognise there are some improvements to make in terms of functionality, data that we extract from it, and our ability to integrate and feedback issues raised through that from residents of the borough. We've provided some data in terms of schedules about how we've progressed through the year. There has been some divergence in what we've achieved versus our target achievements, in particular towards the end of September, October, largely due to the number of staff that have had to self-isolate with the ramping up of the government's test and trace system, which has actually impacted us more than the first lockdown did. However, we've been able to maintain all the essential elements of the service throughout that time. Glendale Live also provides details of issues that are raised by our staff through their smartphones that they have on site, and some overview data there in terms of the kind of feedback we get, which we can drill through and make changes where we feel appropriate to improve the service. And their typical categories are, there are two large categories of customer issue and other, which generally refers to damaged infrastructure on site, potentially through antisocial behaviour or accidental damage, and things that need replacing or staff wish to bring to our attention regarding site conditions. If I just look into where we are in respect of this first year, we have now 90% of our small equipment, handheld equipment, is electrically powered, which was a commitment we made in our bid last year. And we have invested over 260,000 pounds in plant and equipment, and that's in addition to over 200,000 in new vehicles for the contract, and we've detailed some images of those in the report. Health and safety remains an absolute priority for us and all our managers and staff. And we've, despite the circumstances this year, we've maintained control and management of that in line with our system. And we've provided some information from our own internal application app, GlenSafe, in terms of the kind of data it produces. And we're pleased to report that this year we have not had any reportable accidents, and only 7, although 1 is too many, only 7 minor accidents, which predominantly involve being struck by objects or manual handling activities, which is a common feature within our industry. These statistics help drive our training need in terms of toolbox talks and annual refresher training, which helps us to improve our performance year on year. We have, in terms of customer feedback, as I mentioned, FirmStep, we're using that in some detail now, and we acknowledge, I think, that there's certainly we believe there's room for improvement in the speed, the flow of information through that, and our ability to provide feedback to residents that do raise inquiries. Although at the moment we are still receiving inquiries through a number of different streams, including phone calls and sort of direct emails not coming through FirmStep, and that's something we want to look at and work closely with the officers. We've not been able to engage as much with the community, which was a commitment we made in our bid and something we're very keen to do this year for obvious reasons. And we should be looking to implement a full programme of community engagement next year. But that isn't to say that where possible this year, we would still like to have assisted, and we have done in some examples, one of which we've mentioned in the report. I think I'd just like to sort of close off by saying that we absolutely recognise the value of green space, more so in these times than perhaps others, to the physical and mental health of people in the borough, and we will ensure that we redouble our efforts to maintain the green space so that they can be enjoyed with the restrictions in place that perhaps bring them into sharper focus than they might have been otherwise. And we very much look forward to enhancing the service and working closely with our council officers next year.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Evans.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, where do I start? Okay,
so my apologies, Councillor Evans. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah. There's a member of the public wishing to speak first. Sorry, before we go to debate. My apologies.
I thought so. Don't worry. Go on.
Yeah. Just hang on a second. Betsy Condicor, my apologies for that. I should have brought you in then. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, really. I mean, obviously, it has been difficult with COVID and things. There seems to be a lack of common sense applied and things. Just sort of when lockdown started easing, we had glorious weather. People were on furlough. Schools weren't in and things. So there was a lot more people using the open spaces, but there didn't seem to be any sort of common sense that we need to we're going to get more stuff in the bins because people are having to meet outside, they're picnicking, whatever and things. So we did have quite a bin issue. It does seem to have improved. It's not perfect, but it has improved and things. But can we have a bit more common sense, please? Thrown into the contract. And also, like with hedges, I've had to report umpteen times various ones, particularly around Horston Grange and things. And I know you can't cut back in the nesting season and what have you and things. But when they are done, they're done so timidly that they're only often taken back to the edge of the path. And we all know how quickly these things grow and things. So when things are cut back, they need to be cut back really sort of quite drastically. I know it always looks like sort of, oh my goodness, when they have been cut drastically and things, but within about 2 weeks, you don't even notice that they've been cut. So those are those points. The other thing was really about health and safety. I reported, I'm sure people from Glendale are aware of this and things, a whole load of wet grass cuttings that had been sort of dragged by the wheels of mowers and things onto the road, again by Horston Grange this was. And the initial response was, oh well, we don't pick it up for health and safety reasons. Well, the main reason I was reporting it, not so much that it looked unsightly, but actually for cycling and what have you, it is a health and safety issue and things. And then when I sort of queried this and things, it was said, oh well, the operative isn't allowed to leave the mower and what have you and things. But so I think we need a sort of much bigger picture. I appreciate you want health and safety for your operatives and things, but that needs to apply to the people who are using the spaces as well and things. And I really notice how much wet cut grass is on so many paths and onto carriageway and things. And that is a health and safety issue. It's terribly wet and slimy, and you only need someone to slip and you'll have a whole case on your hands. So can we have a bit of sort of looking at it from the people in the borough, not just from the operatives aspect, although I do want them to stay safe as well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Does anybody wish to reply to that? A wee bit more common sense should be in the contract.
Duly noted, Chair. If I may come back briefly on that, and fully acknowledging the comments made, and we will take those away and seek to make improvements where possible. In respect of the post-lockdown and the increased number of people using the facilities, we do try to flex what is a finite resource, and we'd also had to maintain a lower level of resource when we'd normally have been increasing that resource level in the lockdown month. So we were in a position where staffing was stretched post-lockdown. We do try to flex the service to where demand increases, and we will continue to review that, and the comment is absolutely noted. In terms of hedge cutting, yes, again, we'll review it, but of course, there's good horticultural practice, which and sometimes hedges are fast-growing hedges that maybe in the wrong species that's faster growing, that isn't in the ideal place where it may encroach and cause an obstruction. We do try to carry out hedge cutting that's appropriate both to the location and to the species, but we will take that comment away. In respect of health and safety and grass on paths, I certainly wouldn't wish to suggest that us removing that grass is a health and safety hazard for our operatives necessarily. And we will look at it, but it is always difficult striking a balance between ensuring we get the grass cut when sometimes conditions are wet, and it's very difficult to avoid some grass being redistributed where we wouldn't want it on hard surfaces. And we do try to both clear up and blow off the grass from those areas where possible. But again, we will take that away as noted. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Let's try again. Councillor Evans.
Yes, second time lucky.
Yeah.
For bringing this to the committee's attention. I read that some of our employees in Glendale have been digging graves for victims of those who had passed away due to coronavirus, and obviously that must have been quite difficult for some of your staff. And I just wondered if Glendale provides sort of counselling for its staff in response to that. Some of my other questions. It's mentioned on paragraph 5 of the report about the new customer satisfaction rating survey. I just wanted some clarity as to how that's going to be done. Is it going to be done quarterly, so we can actually we can review Glendale's performance, and will that data be put into the performance management report? See on that, and will the survey results be presented to the committee? On page 45 of Glendale's report, there's a graph on there that says schedules issues by type, and then it says verbal and physical abuse 5. I just wondered what that where it says nesting birds, general notes, sharp needles, dog fouling, fly tipping, etc. And I just wondered what that meant by verbal and physical abuse 5 pieces of work. I'm a bit confused what that represents. If I could have some clarity on that, please.
Chair, would you like me to pick up on the point?
Yeah, by all means, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if it was just me, but I didn't hear all of the beginning of the comments and question, but I did think I got the gist of it. It was a question around, do we provide counselling for staff? First of all, thank you for your recognition of the challenging circumstances that our staff on the front line have had to go through this year. Yes, we absolutely recognise it, and we do have informal and routes to formal counselling available for staff. We as an organisation maintained a daily online meeting for sort of 40 or 50 of our managers on each and every contract, including Barry and Dean in Nuneaton and Bedworth, where we were providing support, guidance, and taking feedback. And in response to that, one of the measures we put in place was to communicate to staff the availability of counselling and the importance of them raising concerns they had about their own well-being in the difficult circumstances. The second point around customer satisfaction frequency, I think that's something perhaps David from the council would like to pick up on. But if I come back to the third one, the verbal and physical abuse, perhaps one of my colleagues, Barry or Dean, may come in and give just one example of that so you can get a flavour. It has been mercifully relatively low in level, but it is somewhat, I have to say, disappointing when we try to undertake our staff try to undertake the role to the best of their ability. We're not perfect, but sometimes we residents just aren't happy with what we're doing, or when we're doing it, or where we're doing it, or feel that we should have different priorities. Barry, could you step in and give an example if you're aware of one?
Hi, it's Dean here. Yeah, I think our biggest one this year was when we were cutting one of the environmental areas, and one of our staff was racially abused by not one but two members of the public. It was quite a vicious attack, really, which ended up going to the police and was investigated further. Unfortunately, nothing was ended up as a result of it, but it was quite a bad one for our member of staff who had to leave that day because he was shook up quite badly.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Chair.
I'm sorry to. I really am sorry to hear that. I was hoping that when hearing that the police might have been taking some action in order to sort of stand in this sort of thing. David, did you want to come back on something there?
Yes, thank you, Chair. In relation to the customer satisfaction ratings, yes, we will be looking to report that through the 10 system, so it will on a performance management system. Obviously, at this moment in time, we've more or less come to the end of our testing phase, so certainly we'd be looking at reporting on that as a minimum quarterly.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Condicor.
Okay, I haven't finished.
I thought you had. Sorry, I haven't. Your hand's not up. You see, that's what I was. Okay, Councillor Evans, have you come on?
Yeah, just one more thing, Chair. You know, clearly I'm very disappointed to hear about that incident about racial abuse, and I trust that the council have been proactive in assisting with you on that where necessary. And just one more thing, I do have a message from a constituent that I would like to put to the Parks Department and to Glendale. So this is from Roy. The contractor who installed the wooden staging at the Sidings pool has left behind dozen foam rectangle like stone approximately 1.5 to 1.75 meters in dimension. These need collecting ASAP. In urban areas, Glendale needs to manage the grass cutting timing better. They allow the grass to grow too long, only to then cut too short, resulting in it dying off. If you want to see an example of this, please take at the junction of the Oaks, Silver Birch, which is on the woodland. So I hope Barry or Dean can probably go and have a look at that if possible.
I'm sure that they will. Councillor Condicor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Generally, there's been a lot of good work from Glendale. People were quite pleasantly surprised to see the bins being emptied quite early after the end of phase 1. Obviously, we then went into the picnic season and we had some problems. But yeah, there has been a lot done against a very challenging background. So I don't want to sound entirely negative, but there are also some things we need to do better. The Glendale Live system's a great opportunity, but when I look at things like the flood relief at Clay, it just says TBD when it's going to get cleared. And when we have heavy rain due, I quite often come and clear out the gutter myself a bit, just to because I've got no idea when Glendale will actually do it. So I think if we could populate some of the TBDs a bit more on the Glendale Live system, it would actually be really good. We also have the issue of keeping the paths clear from vegetation. We had an emergency need to clear the corner of Ryde Avenue and it's the corner of Shanklin Drive and goes on to Brookdale. And it was done relatively quickly, but it wasn't cut back that far. And if you look under where the hedge is, it's still over the pavement. And we continuously having to get these things cut back because we've let the hedge go over the pavement and it's now permanently over the pavement. Whereas ideally, when you cut it back, should cut it back a good 6 inches back from the pavement or a foot back, so that actually I'm then not asking for it to be cut again in a few weeks. Also, we removed some shrub beds, places like Ryde Avenue a couple of years ago, and the areas weren't reinstated to grass, so we now have shrub beds.
I don't know. Does anybody Is that a definite yes then, Victoria?
Yeah, Chris has put good to go here. So
Okay, that's all right then. Councillor Sargent, would you like to redress your comments again? All right, address them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I would like it. I've been to meetings and spoke before to Glendale with disappointment, actually, within the cemeteries. And they did promise that they would look at how people were cutting round graves and being mindful that people were in a very sensitive area. And I'm pleased to say that throughout the year, I've seen a great improvement. And I just wanted to say thank you. It has not been brought to my attention at all this year. So that's great news. So I want to say thank you. Also, I wanted to say from Councillor Evans that obviously digging graves. I need just to clarify something. I've never dug a grave, but I have been in the position where I've been helping bereaved people choose headstones, and it is, stressful and it's very difficult, and you do need to talk to people afterwards. So anything that is that the council are doing to help any of the Glendale staff, I'm pleased to see, and I'd just like to pass on my thanks tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure that all the thank yous are welcome from everybody. Councillor Guttridge, would you like to start again, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to, I've got a couple of questions and points. I'd like to thank Glendale for acting swiftly and quickly on some grass that wasn't in the contract, which was missed off the contract. And I talked to David and he sorted it out. And within 10 days, they went and cut it, and they have maintained it ever since because it's in a very prominent position. I'd also we still do have a few problems when they cut the grass. They don't blow the grass off the pavement and the paths. Also, I reported a problem with an overgrown bush blocking an access which a resident had been onto me, and I filled the form in on the internet and sent it. The job has been done, but I haven't been emailed back to say it's been done. But I know it's been done because I travel past there 2 or 3 times a week at the moment. Also, going on to the hedge cutting, I'm a man of the soil. I've been hedge cutting for many, many years, and we can only cut the hedges from September until February because the rest of the time it's for the birds nesting, and we can only cut it back so far. They've done Eastborough Way, and it doesn't look the best it is, but you've got to bear in mind that's 5 or 6 year growth, and some of those twigs or branches are 3-4 inches long. I just want to be a bit flippant and say, if you'd buy a flail with an F14 on, that would do it, because I've sold that make for many years. But on the whole, I'm very pleased with what Glendale have done for my ward this year. I have got a query on the schedule on page 45. On the pie chart, could they tell me what the other is with 817, please?
Okay, could somebody answer that, please?
Yes, Chair, if I may. I've looked at the data behind this. The items raised under other and customer issue often overlap, and in general terms, it covers items such as damaged bin liners, or missing bin liner, or damaged infrastructure through antisocial behaviour or similar. But a lot of it's around bins not necessarily working properly or bins missing, because I had a quick look at the data earlier today. But we could provide some further detail on that if the councillor so wished.
Yeah. Could you break that down for me? Because if that's the bins, do we need to replace the bins, or have we got to put larger bins, or have we got enough bins for the dog fouling and the waste? But generally, I'm very pleased with Glendale this year. They've done a sterling job under the traumatic conditions we've got, the COVID-19. And hopefully, let's move forward and see if we can have a better year next year. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sure people will take that into consideration. Councillor Tandy.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think I'd like to echo the points that Councillor Jane Sargent has just made. And I appreciate there will always be questions and concerns about any services. But I think we should also be fully aware of the issues that Glendale and the council have been faced with as a result of COVID, which has included people moving jobs from one service to another where they've been needed, when staff have either had to isolate or they've actually had COVID themselves, unfortunately. I think it's easy to complain, but we should also find it very easy to express our thanks during the current difficulties. I would hope everyone holds the same view, Chair, but if necessary, I will move that our thanks be extended to staff for their support and consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll find a seconder. Before I bring Councillor Evans in to speak again, is there anybody else wishes to speak? Councillor Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second what Councillor Tandy has just said. It's been a very difficult period for many across the borough, but Glendale have remained on the front line of our community, doing what they do and taking on other additional responsibilities as well. The reason that I have raised my hand to speak again is because I would like to move a recommendation from this committee, which I'm going to put in the chat. The recommendation is this panel resolves to recommend the following motion to council. This council requests that the portfolio holder for arts and leisure makes a request to officers that the grounds maintenance customer satisfaction survey is advertised on the council's social media channels. I formally propose that recommendation.
Does that find a seconder?
Yes, Chair, I'd happily second that.
Okay. Councillor Condacor, I see your hands up.
Yeah, when we got cut off, we didn't get a response from Glendale about the more stuff being on Glendale Live, like the gully cleaning, because the flood relief area, it's very useful to know when they're going to come back and clear it again, because obviously in the winter it does fill up quite quickly, and TBD is not very useful. And just a final point before we finish tonight on this issue, we have some grounds maintenance work that's not done under this contract, but under the small contracts. So I don't know if that's coming to the committee at a different date, or when we get sight of the things like the tree contract and the other small grounds maintenance contracts. Thank you, Chair.
Does anybody want to answer that?
Chair, if I may come back on the matter raised regarding data on Glendale Live, we will certainly take those comments and the question away and look to provide more detail where appropriate for items that were used, that were mentioned then as an example. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Tandy.
Just a little confused, Chair. You have two proposals on the table.
Well, I've got one. I'm not too sure whether yours was seconded, June. I was.
By Councillor Evans, Chair.
I was seconded by Councillor Evans, but Councillor Evans has put another motion up. Is that a separate motion, Councillor Evans, or do you see that as a friendly amendment to Councillor Tandy's suggestion?
Oh no, I wouldn't want to amend Councillor Tandy's motion because that would negate it. I'd just take the two motions separately if I was you, Chair. I'd be surprised if Councillor Tandy's motion goes to a vote, but yeah. But I did second Councillor Tandy's recommendation. My recommendation is an additional recommendation.
Councillor Tandy, does that seem as a friendly amendment to your original motion?
Chair, it's a separate vote. It's not a friendly amendment. I have moved a vote about thanks be given to staff for their support and help during that is my motion. It's nothing to do with anything being reported to a full council meeting.
Okay, I thought I would try and get that point cleared up. So my understanding is that we take the second one first, and that was Councillor Evans. Is that correct? Somebody correct me or not?
Not entirely sure if it matters, to be honest, but
do you wish to withdraw
take them
then?
both.
Do you wish to withdraw then, Councillor?
Why would I withdraw? I proposed a recommendation for the panel. You just need to take the two recommendations separately.
Okay, unfortunately, Councillor Evans, you're breaking up. I don't know where anybody else is getting the same as what I am getting. Is everybody else getting the same as me? Councillor Evans is breaking up as he's speaking.
I've just gone onto my headphone. I've just gone onto my headphone. I've just gone onto my headphone. Is that any clearer?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Much
Sorry,
clearer.
Just to be absolutely clear, my recommendation is completely separate to that of Councillor Tandy. I don't wish to withdraw it. Like it to be discussed if it needs to be discussed, but yes.
So we'll have a discussion on Councillor Evans' proposal. Anybody wish to speak on it? Nope. Therefore, we shall take a straight vote then, for or against. Philip, who is doing the list?
Well, Chair, I can do that for you. Can I just check one thing? I think Councillor Evans has suggested that you've effectively got two distinct motions that you take separately. Do you want to take Councillor Tandy's first, as I think that's the uncontentious one? I'm not even sure the other one is contentious, but just in case, because I think if that's the case, then we can then just take a vote on the other one.
Okay, there's you've heard what Philip said. We'll take Councillor Tandy's first. Is everybody in favour of Councillor Tandy's recommendation?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Agreed.
Yes, Chair.
Normally, SK, it would be we want to go through the roll call. So I don't know if we've still got to go through the roll call to stay within procedure, Philip. But that's what we'll have to do. That's what we'll have to do.
Well, Chair, if there's no dissension on that one, you can just take it that has been approved. It's only if a member was to object that we would take a roll call. I've not heard any member objecting, so I think you can take that as approved, and we can now move to the other motion, which Councillor Evans's, which is set out in the chat facility.
Okay. So there's no dissent from Councillor Tandy's motion. That was agreed. We're going to vote on Councillor Evans's motion now. Does anybody wish to speak to it? Straightforward, for and against, Philip?
Okay, Chair, if members could please say whether they're for or against the motion, and the motion is set out in the chat, which is this council requires, or requests rather, that the portfolio holder for arts and leisure makes a request to officers that the grounds maintenance customer satisfaction survey is advertised on the council's social media channels. So that's the motion. So if I can ask you just to say for or against. Councillor Croft?
For.
Councillor Doughty?
Against.
Councillor Elliott?
Against.
Councillor Evans?
For.
Councillor Glass?
Against.
Councillor Gran?
For.
Councillor Guttridge?
For.
Councillor Hocking?
Against.
Councillor Kandaka?
For.
Councillor Pomfret?
Against.
Councillor Rutkin?
Against.
Councillor Sark,
4.
Councillor Tandy, Councillor Tandy,
Against, sorry.
and Councillor Wilson. I make that 7 for and 7 against, Chair. So it's tied. So you'll have to exercise your casting vote.
I shall exercise it in the same manner that I voted in the first place, against.
In which case the motion is lost, Chair.
So,
saying that.
Does that mean that it won't be advertised on social media then?
I'm not. There's your request for it to go to the cabinet holder was. I'm just trying to think offhand. I've no idea whether it'll be on social media or not. It'll have to depend on the council's employment practices. Do we normally put things on social media for council and employees?
Yes, Chair. If it helps, I think this is. I mean, this is something officers can take away and ask that this be put on and advertised on social media channels in any event. So I'll raise that with Ian, who's the communications manager, and make those arrangements. The only caveat I think to that, Chair, is that if I understood what David was saying in connection with it, it's not yet fully up and running. I think they were just completing the testing. So, but I think once it is, I think that is something that we would do anyway to encourage feedback from the public.
Okay, I'm assuming that satisfies what you've been saying, Councillor Evans. So,
well, no, not particularly, but okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, but it will be done in the full presence of time, as I say, or as soon as possible. So
well, it's not good enough. You've just voted against putting this on social media, and I'm lost for words as to why you would do that. But okay.
Mr. Richardson has already said what he said, and the motion was lost. I would like to, at this point, I would like to thank everybody for their contributions, and thanks everybody, David Trustlaw, the Borough, and of course Glendale, because it's one of the few times I've actually sat at meetings and Glendale and the council with the grounds maintenance contract has got so many plaudits. I'm pleased about that. At the same time, I'm pleased to hear that there is some action being taken about people digging extra graves and dealing with some rude people or horrible people who are criticising people because of their race or their gender or whatever. So I'm not too happy with that, but I'm pleased the report is going in the direction it is. It's the first time I've heard for a long time about our thanks, and as I say, it's in this time of need with COVID-19, etc., and people are being transferred from here there in order to fill positions in order to make sure that everybody's safe and secure, whilst at the same time keeping up a good example of the grounds maintenance. So I would like to thank everybody for their contribution, and thanks everybody else as well. At that point, I'd like to go into item number 8. Philip Richardson, are you taking the integrated performance reports?
Yes, Chair, I'm more than happy to do that, and I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to do this fairly briefly and then leave it for members to ask questions. The format of the report is as it always has been, so it should be fairly familiar to members of the panel. I would again reiterate that there have been no covert surveillance operations under the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act, which is set out at item 3 on the main report. Then you have the full Appendix A, which sets out the current position on those services that are relevant to this panel. And I should say, And I'm not going to go through them. Members can pick them out and raise questions on them. But what you have got, obviously, is you can see the full impact there in terms of the pandemic and how it has impacted on services and finances. So beyond that, Chair, I wasn't going to say any more. You do have the risk register also for perusal before you, and that starts on Appendix B on page 84. And then, Chair, you have got the a bit more granularity further down the report in terms of some of the FOI and complaints data. I don't want to say any more than that, Chair. So it's really open to members now to ask the questions.
Okay, I've got Mrs. Condicor. Would you like to start it off?
Thank you. Well, there is massive stuff on this item, so I've only got 3 minutes, so I'm hoping that councillors will be asking all the questions that I haven't got time to go through things one by one. I'm still very concerned by how many freedom of information, environmental information regulation requests are outstanding. The numbers just baffle me. I can't understand why things are taking so long to respond to with FOI requests. If there's, if it's going to take too long to get all the information together, the council can say, oh, we can't do this, it's going to cost too much. If they haven't got the information or whatever, surely they just reply like that. I'm absolutely baffled. Page 67, it says reduction in store size. This is regards the Nuneaton market. And I just don't understand why they're making the regular store holders have to be, if they normally had, say, 6 tables, only be allowed to have 2, because there's plenty of room in the town centre. Why can't they just be spread out over larger area? There's loads of space in Abbey Street, down Harefield Road, right down to Wilco's. So I find that a little bit strange. On page 73, about the length of stay of people in B&B, there was nothing I could find, correct me if I'm wrong, about when the council house conversion will be ready, which will obviously help that a little bit. And on page 83, it says economic development is showing an underspend due to salary savings, and yet further on in the risk register, it's a high risk of failure to maintain the economic vibrancy of the borough and town centres. So we desperately need to have some more people working in economic development, and I'd be interested to know why they've not got these people in place. Are they not offering enough money and things, for people to come in and work? And maybe if that is the case, then we do actually need to pay more, because it will it's one of these things, you have to spend money to save money. So if we've got a lot more, someone who knows what they're doing, surely it would really improve, the borough and the town centres in particular. And going back to the thing I just mentioned about the freedom of information thing on the risk register, freedom of information risk is should be marked as amber or red, and it's not, and that just doesn't make sense. So sometimes things are not being tied together, and I would have expected a lot more of the risks to be in the red and amber things. What with all the issues that have come up with COVID and the forthcoming Brexit, departure and things, I think need to be realistic about how risky things are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any members of the panel? Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chair. Page 63 refers to the satisfaction with council promoted shows at the Civic Hall, and I made this point at the last meeting about what data we actually get from that and how it's measured, because yet again it's saying that for 2019-2020 we got 100% satisfaction from members of the public. Now, as I said last time, that's absolutely fantastic, but in reality, if we've only had 1 or 2 responses from members of the public, then the data itself is insignificant. So what I wanted to know actually in the minutes of the last meeting, and I haven't actually had a response to this, is surely there needs to be something in place which means that if we're only getting one or two pieces of data back from customers, then actually they're not registered, because I'm not entirely sure how we can measure how well the civic hall are doing when we're not getting any responses back. And also I want to know why the target for 2020-2021 has been put at 95%. So hopefully an officer can respond to that. My other concern is the strategic risk register, and there's absolutely nothing at all in this register about the council's plans regarding Bedworth Market, which will lose us a lot of our traders, and B, a lot of income. Myself and Craig Tracy, the Member of Parliament for North Warwickshire and Bedworth, have written a joint letter to the leader of the council, and I must state that we are yet to receive a response from Councillor Jackson, but hey ho. But the council plans on making the market traders park their vans at the Spitalfields car park, which means that they're going to have to carry all their stock over from behind the civic hall to the market each day, and they're going to have to pay parking charges. That, in my opinion, is a risk to the council, because we're going to lose market trade. They're going to lose income for the council. So that needs to be in the register if the leader of the council, Councillor Jackson, whose portfolio this comes under, continues with this farcical idea.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor. Before the officers come in, Councillor Evans, you're still breaking up. I believe I got the gist of everything you were saying. I hope everybody did as well, but you're still breaking up. Does anybody wish to answer Councillor Evans's queries?
I think, Chair, that probably the best person to do that would be Kevin, but I've got a feeling that he may have had to leave the meeting briefly. He did indicate that he would have to and then come back later. So in terms of the satisfaction with council promoted shows and the satisfaction rating, I'm afraid I'm not in a position to give an answer now. I'd have to take that away unless Kevin does come back in the interim. And similarly, I'm not in a position to comment on Bedworth Market. I'm not aware of the issue that Councillor Evans has referred to, so I'm not able to give an indication. Clearly, as he says, though, if there was a risk, then that would be something that we would consider as part of the operational risk register. Possibly not one that would go onto the strategic risk register, but I think that would have to, a view would have to be taken on that by I think the town centres manager in terms of that. I've not responded, Chair, but I just wanted to make a point in connection with a point raised by Mrs. Kandaka in connection with the market. And I am aware that we've had discussions with market traders around market location. There is quite a high premium for the location of stalls in certain locations, and I do know that there have been discussions which have effectively resulted in no change, because members are the market traders themselves are very keen to retain their position where they're known and they have regular customers who know where to find them. But beyond that, I think that the economic development position is, as Michelle has indicated, that we've had various attempts at recruitment. I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I believe that we have now recruited some staff to the economic development team, but only very recently. So we should now be moving things forward in the. And lastly, on the FOIs, yes. We are reviewing our FOI processes currently with a view to tightening up on process. But we do, and I do know that I think Chris Tideman has been to this point, that the data you get is if you like the bald data. It doesn't actually have any granularity in terms of those cases which are more complicated. And where person requesting information is informed and more time is requested to on. So you've got the global figure there, but not necessarily it's not necessarily the case that it had to be responded within the 20 working days, because there had been agreement to extend that. And just to say, obviously, we do get a lot of freedom of information requests, and in some cases it does require a little bit of time to compile the data, find the information that's requested. So we obviously don't automatically say we can't find it, therefore we don't have it. We need to do a proper trawl in order to just be clear what information we do hold, and obviously we do try and comply with the first duty in the Freedom of Information Act, which is to confirm or deny that we hold the information, and then obviously it's then about making it available to the individual that's requested it.
Okay, thanks. There's I'm sorry I have to say this again, but is it just me, or did anybody pick up Philip very clearly, because he seemed to be going in and out somewhat similar to Councillor Evans? Is it just me, or is it?
I don't have a problem, Chair.
No, I have. Well, I can hear that quite well. Anyway, we'll carry on. I think we've got the gist. Well, I've got the gist of what he was saying. Councillor Condicor.
Thank you very much, Chair. I could hear Philip okay. I think we need better broadband though for some members and staff. A couple of things I'd like to draw out from the report. One, I'm disappointed that page 142, which is the strategic performance report, is very dated, and the Cabinet, which met yesterday, actually had a newer version of this report. I do think as Scrutiny Committee we should have as up-to-date version of these reports as Cabinet gets, and as not working on an August report when Cabinet is working on a September report. Going in through the risk register, there is a lot of risks that are getting bigger. Looking at things like the NAB cell, one of the mitigations against NAB cell having problems is the shareholder committee, and that committee hasn't met all year. I don't know if it's got any plans to meet. Likewise, on some of the fire stuff, it says the fire management group. I didn't even know it existed. It'd be useful to know if that is still meeting and what's going on. And the really big one is about finance. And at the audit committee, it was made clear that we're very short of staff resources in finance. Yeah, we've only got one Craig, and the amount of stuff that keeps piled on one member of staff is a serious risk. And we had that at the audit committee. I've been trying to get more data on the Abbey Street project, and it took me a month to get some information on that. I think we can't have the finance risks as green when we've got such a tide of problems to sort out and so few staff in the finance department. So I do think these risk registers are grossly over optimistic, and we should acknowledge we're actually deeply under stress in some parts of the organisation, partly due to the vast number of stuff we're trying to do. I mean, we are trying to do ambitious projects like Abbey Street, but I think the risk register needs to reflect that we're taking risks, and that isn't coming across. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Philip.
Yes, Chair. I'll deal with that last point, and Councillor Kandaka is right that there is a later version of the risk register. I think what you've got here is the risk register that relates to the period of the report that you're looking at, because it is I think an end of Q2 report, whereas obviously we're moving forward. So that one will come to this panel at the next meeting. In terms of the position as far as finance is concerned, yes, it is an issue. It is something that management team are aware of, and obviously it is something that we are looking at. And it's not just finance that we have this issue. We have it in a number of the professional services where it's quite difficult to recruit currently. But that it is certainly, I think, on Simone's radar as something that needs to be addressed. In terms of fire management, obviously with COVID it's been quite difficult to convene meetings, certainly during the initial lockdown, so we've missed a couple of meetings, but it does still exist and it will carry on. in the interim, it's been managed through the, particularly in terms of the housing services, and I'm just conscious of the earlier discussion, and this will probably come back at this extraordinary meeting that's going to be convened, that there is a separate external contract that is undertaking a lot of the fire risk assessments, particularly for the housing service at the moment, so that the issues that came out of the Grenfell fire inquiry can be addressed, and those are being looked at. So you'll probably get more detail on that when this comes back to the panel.
Okay, we're live again. There's the only contribution was made was by Simone, who said that basically that Philip Richardson answered everything that she wanted to say. So does that fill it in? Yep. Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I just wanted to do a couple of comments on something that Michelle Condicord said, and also Councillor Evans. And that is, I still don't have the understanding, Philip, from the market while we're reducing tables on essential goods, because if the non-essential has been moved from the market because they're not allowed there, surely there would still be space for the essential market to have their original tables. However, I do agree with you that market stall holders do like to be in their same pitch, because they believe customers can just walk to them and know that they're there and won't go hunting for them. So I do agree with that. Secondly, I'd like to say about Councillor Evans, some of the Bedworth market traders I know, and their concerns are exactly what Councillor Evans said about the parking, but also, if while looking into it, they were saying that they, by moving their vehicle, who then is going to look after their goods once they've set up? Because I do believe they could go in and set up with their vehicle, but then they had to remove their vehicle, and sometimes it's just only one person. So if you could look into that, Richard, that would be really handy. And while I've got the floor, I'd just like to ask Simone and Philip if they could look into, through this very difficult time, where the places like Attleborough and Bulkington, where elderly people are concerned about using public transport, could actually have essential markets going on with the help of the borough. And I would just like to say that. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak.
Yep, no problem, Councillor. Philip, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll have to defer to Councillor Sargent's superior knowledge in this, but I'll take the issues that she's raised in terms of the market and the downsizing the market and why that doesn't facilitate more traders in that area. I don't know the answer to that, so I'll have to ask Jonathan the question, and I'll send a message through to Councillor Sargent with the response. And again, I will clarify with Jonathan the issue around setting up at the Bedworth market and what the arrangements are. I have no idea personally, so I'll have to come back on that. And certainly, and again, it's one for Jonathan. I know he has supported the Attleborough community in terms of setting up markets in the past, so I assume he'd be happy to do that again, but I will take that up with Jonathan and ask him to confirm, and then liaise with Councillor Sargent and Councillor Andy Sargent, I think, as a ward councillor, and Councillor Tandy as the other ward councillor, to see what can be done there.
Okay. Is there any other comments?
Thank you,
okay.
Philip.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other comments from the panel? No. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for the report, folks. And obviously, the questions or the queries who have been asked, if we can get some answers to them, and then hopefully next time around we get a bit more positive report from well, once COVID's out the way. Hopefully it's not going to be I think it'll be with us for a while yet, but hopefully we can get back to some new normality, as it was called. So saying that, thanks for that, and move on to item number 9. I understand this is you as well, Philip. Public space protection orders.
Well, yes, Chair. In fact, Andrew Snowden is here as the Senior Environmental Health Officer to present the report. So I'm going to defer to Andrew. I just wanted to check whether did Mrs. Kandaka want to speak on this item, Chair?
Yeah, she does, yeah.
So I'll hand over to Andy at this point, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Chair. Yes, public space protection orders and dog control. Members won't need telling that dog control issues such as dog fouling are a perennial high priority issue for residents. And that's supported by complaint data we have within the appendices of the report submitted. Initially enforced under the Dogs Fouling of Land Act, this was replaced by dog control orders under the Clean Neighbourhoods and Environment Act. And they were subsequently replaced by more generalised public space protection orders, which are a flexible tool to deal with antisocial behaviour. Dog control orders that previously existed had to be converted to these by 2017, which Nuneaton and Bedworth subsequently did. So we had a dog control public space protection order, which broadly created an offence of dog fouling on all sort of public spaces such as roads, highways, parks, anywhere where the public had access in the borough. Any public space protection order is enforced for a maximum of 3 years. Sorry, just to go back, it did create offences around dogs on lead and dog exclusion areas as well. But yeah, any public space protection order is enforced for 3 years as a maximum, and after that point ceases. So our public space protection order, which was started in 2017, expired in July. Ideally, it would have been replaced, but as a result of the environmental health restructure and the COVID crisis at the time, it lapsed. So we're now looking to reinstate the order. However, public space protection orders within the sphere of antisocial behaviour can prohibit specified activities and can require certain things to be done. But the test for this is that the activities that take place have a detrimental effect on the quality of the life of people in the locality, or it is likely to do so, persistent or continuing, and is unreasonable. So this opportunity to renew the public space protection order does give us the chance to consider whether A, we want to reinstate it. It is an option not to. Whether we want to reinstate it in its pre-existing form up until July, or whether we want to take the opportunity to look at other antisocial behaviour related issues that could be included within the order, because as I say, PSPOs, as they're known, are quite flexible, and anything that falls within the sphere of antisocial behaviour could be included. So during discussions, we've considered options like vehicle sales on highways in prominent locations, town centre begging, camping on council land, and no doubt there are many others. So if we did want to include things, one of the options for the panel is to suggest options to be considered. I say we have to meet the necessary tests that are set out in the guidance and that I've previously outlined. There are pros and cons to including anything extra. Obviously, we would get potential enforcement of further issues that are perhaps not covered at the moment. There is a risk in that it potentially delay things if we encounter issues around consultation or evidence gathering to demonstrate the problem, or enforcement resource negotiations. So there is a chance that the sort of pre-existing dog control orders, or the public space protection order for dog control, could be delayed a bit further if we encounter issues by including things. So the question for the panel is really, and I've tried to keep it as to the point as possible, and you can take questions as necessary, but the question really is, A, do we want to reintroduce the order in its sort of pre-existing form? Do we not want to reintroduce it at all, or do we want to reintroduce it with additional elements? And if so, we would welcome suggestions for those additional elements. I think that probably concludes my my presentation, Chair. So at this point, we'll just take questions if necessary.
Yeah, I'm sure that there'll be loads of councillors asking for rather than specific named areas, as we got in the report,
to be a bit more generalised, and I'm sure there's some places that'll come to mind. Public speaker, Mrs. Condicor.
Thank you. And it's rather disappointing, really, that it's been allowed to lapse at all, but there we are. Thanks. In terms of what it should include, I would very much say that the commercial vehicle sales on the public highway is something that it should include if that's relatively straightforward, and also the town centre begging. But what I don't know, and hopefully in the discussion I'll find out, is really sort of who actually then enforces these things, because begging and things I know has been enforced by the police and certain criteria, certainly things that have happened in Nuneaton in recent times. But from what I read, this is sort of has to be council enforced. So there's a lot of things to weigh up. The one other thing that was mentioned was control of camping on public open spaces. I'm not aware that that's a massive problem. The two occasions I have seen it, once in Weddington and once in Crow Hill by the wreck. There were obviously homeless people, but they were camped very, very discreetly and out of the way and things. And I wouldn't like them to sort of, because of that, sort of be criminalised or whatever happens, or have some mark against them because of it. So, and also I have no idea on the timescales and things. So it is going to be a sort of case of weighing up what's included, how quickly it can be, brought forward, and how it's going to be enforced. Thank you.
Okay. Members of the panel, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I do welcome the report in some respects because it gives us an opportunity to consider other issues which are affecting the borough. I am disappointed that the present order has been allowed to lapse, but there are mitigating circumstances around that. It's my understanding, though, that there is a fourth alternative from what Andrew Snowden put forward, because you don't have to have one giant order which encompasses everything. I believe you can also have separate public space protection orders which can be done, because other authorities have done that around the country. So you could still have a dog control protection order as order number 1, and say a camping on public spaces as a separate order number 2, and so on, which I think is probably the better way to go, because otherwise we're going to have a super order which is going to be massively complicated, I would suspect. So I think I'd like to move a recommendation, Chair, that Cabinet request Environmental Health begin the process of renewing the dog control order, the dog control PSPO, as a matter of urgency. Yes, it would have been nice to review it and see if there's anything else there, but we are without protections at the moment because the order has been allowed to lapse. We may be able to do an amendment. We may have to do a new order and revoke this other one. But let's get some protection there, which already has a proven track record and we know is a legally enforceable order because we've been doing it for 3 years. The second part of my recommendation is that a working party be established to consider other topics for PSPOs within the borough and bring forward proposals for further PSPOs. I think this is especially important because there are, and I've just put that into the chat, Chair, because those names here are exactly the ones which are bugging me and my residents, and I know others. The car sales on the road, and Phil Richardson will back us up on this, because myself and Julian have bugged him for years on car sales going on in the Whitestone area, along Lutterworth Road and along Eastborough Way in particular. And I suspect that Phil is fed up of Julian sending all the photos of what's going on. And it bugs a number of residents as well. I think that's another area that we need to look at. I think town centre begging, Coventry has done one. That was done some time ago. And I know that there are arguments for and against, but from some of the conversations I've had with other third sector providers is that a number of the people who are still on the town centre begging are those who have chosen not to accept help from third sector or the council. They have been intentionally on the streets. And those that have been helped by the council and others have been helped wherever possible. But some of them do make it a lifestyle choice, and we need to tackle that. Coventry has just displaced the issue onto us, and we didn't do anything in return to actually deal with the issue. And in terms of camping on public open spaces, that would have helped us tremendously with the illegal gypsy and traveller encampments that we have suffered from in the past. Indeed, I spoke at Cabinet a few years back. I believe it was under the previous regime with Councillor Harvey, but the Cabinet rejected having a PSBO to deal with that at a time when it wouldn't do anything about an injunction. And as I understand it, our injunction is being reviewed because there is another case in the High Court, I believe it is, and the judge there has requested a number of injunctions, which are blanket injunctions across local authority areas, be called in and reviewed as part of that case because it's a related matter. And if that goes south and we have no protection, but a public space protection order could give us another weapon in the arsenal to deal with illegal gypsy and traveller encampments. So I think having a working party to establish these things would be tremendously helpful. If necessary, it could seek opinions from the public. I'm sure the working party could issue a press release asking for members of the public to submit ideas or give evidence or whatever. But I think it needs a lot more work involved in doing these things, and having separate orders deal with them would be helpful. And the working party and I believe that we had a working party actually for the dog control order one, which actually worked out what the term should be and everything else. So I think this is an exceptional way forward. I would be more than happy to serve on the working party because, as I say, there are a number of issues there which bug me on a ward matter. But I think this is an opportunity now, Chair, to actually do something with legislation which we have had in our arsenal for some amount of time but haven't done anything with before. So I would propose that, Chair. And I understand Councillor Tandy, I welcome her seconding the proposal.
Okay, I've never seen that anywhere. Yeah, obviously there's we've got quite a few speakers in this tonight, and I'm a bit concerned about the time. The meeting's supposed to finish at 8 o'clock. I don't think we'll be able to deal with item number 10 or number 11. We've already dealt with Councillor Condicor's thing at the end there. So rather than having the next meeting as a one item meeting, is it possible we could stick these two items on that and then deal with them at that time? Because I'm concerned about running out of time at 8 o'clock, and I think that these control orders should be in as soon as possible. And I've got no objections to a working party to have a look at it to see whether we could extend it or anything else. I have a point of order here. Who's got a point of order?
Councillor Evans.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, in accordance with the council's constitution, could I move that we suspend standing orders in order to complete all agenda items as printed?
Councillor Wilson.
My concern, Councillor, is once again is that this meeting can go into about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and I know some people actually like that to happen, but I personally would prefer the meeting to finish at 8, and then we can deal with the other matters at the next, specially convened meeting in order to do with one subject and put these rest of the subjects on and then deal with them all at the same time, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. But as I understand it, this order has to be in order for us to give us protection at the same time, because we haven't got protection just now, and at least the very thing we could do is agree the order at the present time, go for the working party and fill in the nitty-gritty stuff afterwards and make sure we have a good solid policy. Anybody else want to? Councillor Guttridge.
Thank you, Chair. I fully echo my ward colleagues' recommendation, and we do need a working party on this, and we do need to put the PSPO in straight away for the dogs, and we need to broaden the PSPO outwards. And a working party can look at different aspects of what we've all got problems in the borough in our wards. I, for instance, have got cars, vans, pickups. I take the details, I email Mr. Richardson, and then he tries from there. I email our county councillors. We've even had it where the county council have put a hedge up so they could stop the people viewing the cars down Eastborough Way. And I fully support a working party. Let's sit down calmly and collectively and look at all aspects, a cross-party working party, and come back then with recommendations. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Guttridge. Yeah, thanks for your contribution. I would totally agree with everything you're saying, but I'm informed on chat once again that there's a motion be put forward to extend the meeting. So presumably we have to take a vote on whether to extend the meeting. Philip, can you advise me on the correct procedure?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Evans is quite right that Councillor Wilson seconded Councillor Evans's motion. It is a motion that can be moved without notice. So, and it does say that in such circumstances you should go to the vote without delay. So you will have to take a vote on extending. Extending the meeting, basically suspending the procedural that says that meetings shall finish after 3 hours.
Okay. So I presume that's a vote then. So there's has been suggested that the meeting continues until we finish the stuff on the agenda. All in favour of that? Do we have to take a roll again, Philip?
That very much depends, Chair, on whether all members are in agreement. If so, you could just take it as affirmation and then just carry on with the meeting. But from what you were saying, you weren't too keen on it yourself. So I don't know whether you have an issue with that.
Well, just want to see whether the panel's got an issue with that or not. We'll have to discuss it then. Have we got anybody disagreeing or agreeing with moving until till all the subjects are covered?
Chair, I'd like to agree with your move to just finish this item off and then tap the others on to the other meeting.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Can I just say, Chair, in which case we'll need to just take the vote on the procedural motion at this stage, because clearly there isn't a consensus on it. So if you're okay, Chair, I'll run through the list of members.
Could I request a recorded vote, please?
Okay.
Okay, Chair.
Yep.
Right. So this is for or against extension of standing orders. Sorry, I'll start again. This is to suspend standing orders and extend the length of the meeting beyond 3 hours. So please say whether you're for or against. So Councillor Croft?
For.
Councillor Doughty?
Against.
Councillor Elliott?
Against.
Councillor Evans?
For.
Councillor Glass?
Against.
Councillor Gran? Councillor Gran? I'll come back to you, Councillor Gran. Councillor Guttridge?
For.
Councillor Hocking?
Against.
Councillor Kandaka? Councillor Kandaka?
Sorry, I'm against the full extension. I'm happy to do one item, but not all.
So you're voting against. Councillor Pomfret?
Against.
Councillor Rudkin?
Against.
Councillor Sargent?
For.
Councillor Tandy?
Against.
Councillor Wilson?
For.
And I see, Chair, that Councillor Gran is for. He's noted it in the chat, but his mic is not working. So
I've noticed that. Yes.
So, Chair, just bear with me. That's 6 for extending council procedurals and 8 against. Sorry, extending the meeting and 8 against. So it's lost. I guess the question is, what do you want to do now?
Chair, can I move that we take the vote on the motion in relation to the PSOPs, please?
So you're agreeing with what Councillor Wilson was saying?
No, I'm suggesting that we have an item that we're discussing, which is very urgent, which is the public space protection order. We have a proposer and a seconded. I'm proposing again that we move to the vote on that particular item.
Is there a second, the Chair?
Is there a seconder to that?
Seconded, Chair.
Okay. So we'll move to the vote then.
Well, Chair, this is a procedural motion, so we'll take the procedural motion first. If it's carried, then we'll move to actually take the vote, if that's okay. So, well, can I ask first and foremost, Chair, if there's any dissension to moving to the vote?
Is there any dissension to moving for the vote? Councillor Evans.
Well, I haven't got any dissent. I don't know why you're asking me.
You've got your hand up. I'm just
do I? Oh, right, okay.
I'm only going on what I can see in front of me, Councillor.
In which case, Chair, from my perspective, I see no members objecting to moving to the vote. So I think you can take that by affirmation, members have agreed to move to the vote. So if we can take the vote on the substantive motion, which is as set out by Councillor Wilson in the chat facility. Councillor Croft, can you please indicate whether you're for or against the motion? Councillor Croft?
I am for.
Councillor Doughty? Councillor Doughty? I'll come back to Councillor Doughty. Councillor Elliott?
For.
Councillor Evans?
For.
Councillor Glass?
For.
Councillor Gran? I'll come back. If you want to put it in the chat facility, Councillor Gran, I'm not sure whether that 7:55. Yeah, okay. For. Councillor Guttridge?
For.
Councillor Hocking?
For.
Councillor Kandaka?
For.
Councillor Pomfret?
For.
Councillor Rudkin?
For.
Councillor Sargent?
For.
Councillor Tandy?
For.
Councillor Wilson?
For.
And the only vote I'm missing is for Councillor Doughty.
For.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Chair.
Okay. So that's unanimous. So there's at least we'll have a legal document if that's the right word to do, because it is important we get this thing in place, and we look forward to try and get other things added on so it's more up to date, and from examples from other councils, perhaps we could use them in order to better our own setup. So apart from that, I shall close the meeting and thank everybody for their attendance, and just saying we'll try and call the special meeting as soon as possible, and we'll add a couple of extra items on it in order so we can at least get this meeting finished and out the way. But I shan't add any more items onto it unless, of course, of their urgency or their emergency procedures. So saying that, I'd like to thank everybody for their attendance tonight and close the meeting. Can you close down the website, please?